The UFC have brought out the big bucks and they have finally signed the biggest MMA fighter signing in recent UFC history to the promotion from Rizin. This is massive news because this guy, Kai Asakura, brings an insane audience to the UFC. An absolutely insane audience. Now, the reason why I say this is the biggest MMA fighter signing in recent UFC history, I'm not just chucking that out there out of nowhere. I know we've had big names come to the UFC. We've had Brock Lesnar. We've had kickboxers come along like Alex Pereira. We've had CM Punk. I'm talking about an MMA fighter from outside of the UFC being signed to the UFC. This is the biggest one in recent history that I can think of. Forget about Ben Askren. This is what it's all about, and I'm going to show you that in today's video. I've known about Kai Asakura for many years. I feel like I started paying attention to him four years ago, I would say. It's the only reason I knew about Manel Kape before he even came to the UFC, because randomly one day, I was on YouTube, and I all of a sudden start getting recommended these fights from Kai Asakura. And I'm going to search his name in here onto the actual page of Rizin. Give me a second. If you go to the Rizin page, I get recommended, if you look up his name, and I start seeing, why has this fight got 2.2 million views? Him versus Kyoji Horiguchi in the rematch. 8.9 million views. And I'm confused, okay? There's other ones long before that, 4 years ago. His original fight with Kyoji Horiguchi. I think this was actually the one that caught my eye. 6.3 million views on his fight 4 years ago. This is an amazing signing from the UFC. I've been waiting for them to sign Kai Asakura. I thought they were going to sign him years ago when he first beat Manel Kape and Kyoji Horiguchi. But unfortunately, they waited so long that Manel Kape eventually came back and beat him in the rematch. Then they signed Manel Kape because I think Manel Kape was easier to financially get over to the UFC. I don't think he makes as much money in Rizin as Kai Asakura does. There's so much more to this that I need to tell you about, though. Insane numbers on all of this guy's fights. Then he lost to Kyoji Horiguchi in the rematch as well. They're still signing him. He's in his prime. He's 30. They're talking about putting him in there against a top 10 opponent, top 5 opponent, I'm hearing, straight away in his debut at 135 pounds. There's more you need to see from this, though. Look at the crowds this guy is bringing. He's an MMA fighter. He's a viral sensation as well. Look at the crowds this guy's bringing in. Okay? This is quite some time ago as well. This is his fight 2 years ago now. Look at the crowd that he brings to the table. And I know Rizin brings a crowd as well. But there's different levels of crowds in Rizin based on who's on the events. And this is a Kai Asakura event. He's the guy... I can't... He's the guy over there. He's the guy over at Rizin. He's bringing these insane numbers. There's more for me to show you as well, because you look at the guy's Instagram page and you see 455,000 followers. I don't know if you guys can even see this. And the numbers don't really look too insane for him. Then you go to his Twitter and you see, okay, this signing, 20k likes, nearly 1 million views in 14 hours. That's big news. That's a huge deal. But what I'm about to show you is the reason why this guy is the big deal that he is. This is his YouTube channel, okay? Japanese, by the way. This is his YouTube channel. Look at the view counts that this guy pulls on his videos. He is a viral sensation who's going to bring an insane audience to the UFC that are over there in Japan watching all of his fights. Maybe they know about the UFC anyway, which is probably why he made this move. But now there's going to be a whole new demographic tuning into the UFC. And this weekend, Tatsuro Taira, up-and-coming Japanese prospect in the UFC himself, is main eventing against Alex Perez. A lot of people were like, Tatsuro Taira versus Alex Perez, why would they do that? Now I understand. They sign Kai Asakura, the biggest name in Japanese martial arts, or mixed martial arts, I should say. There's others, yeah, I mean. In mixed martial arts, the biggest name, Kai Asakura, one of the biggest names, they sign him on the same week that they just so happen to have Tatsuro Taira in the main event. So now all of these Japanese fans are going to go, Kai Asakura to the UFC. All right, let's check out what's the UFC got going on. Who's this Japanese prospect in the main event? Undefeated. Tatsuro Taira. Marketable. Got some momentum together. I think he's 5-0 in the UFC flyweight division. Look at the numbers this guy brings, though. I know this is all from years ago, when he was more viral on YouTube. But look at the recent numbers that he puts up. Day after day after day. Rizin to UFC 13 hours ago, 463,000 views. Name another MMA fighter in the UFC right now that's pulling these kind of numbers on YouTube this often. Stylebender, Israel Adesanya, might get 500,000 views if he reacts to UFC 300. And even then, he needs the big UFC event in order to have those types of views. If Israel Adesanya puts out a random vlog on his channel, it's probably going to get about 100K. Look at the numbers he's getting here. He has a series called Breaking Down, by the way, as you can see. But look at this, 463,000 views 13 hours ago. 3 days ago, 579,000. 659,000. This is back to back to back. 2 weeks ago, 2.3 million views. 227,000 just him eating food. 777, 1.5 million, 1 million. This is all within the space of 3 fucking weeks. This is one of the biggest signings, and I was waiting for the UFC to actually sign this dude because I just saw the numbers. Look at the crowds. That was what caught my eye originally, and what made me start paying attention to this guy was the numbers that I saw. Why the fuck does this have 4 million views on YouTube? Am I missing something? Clearly I was. It's not even that he's pulling off these insane highlights. He's a great fighter. 21-4. 1-1 with Manel Cap and Kyoji Horiguchi. Couple of losses mixed in there. Couple names you might recognize, even like a Hilai Lateng secretly on his record as well. He's beaten good opponents. He fights nothing but good competition in martial arts. But it's not like he's will kicking people every fight and that's why he's a superstar. This guy's just got it, clearly. In Japan, he's got the it factor for their people and they are rallying behind him. Look, this isn't the UFC. Look at the crowd. This puts certain UFC fight nights to shame. He's selling out an arena. Look at the crowd. Look back here at some of the... Look over there, top corner over here. Look at some of those seats up there. Stacked with people. Look at this. This literally puts some UFC pay-per-views to shame. To shame. They're all there for him. All there for him. And you can see that when you look at the numbers. I mean, look at the numbers that this guy gets to his fights. We're going to move this out of the way here. Consistently as well on YouTube. 3 million views against Manel Cap. This is when he beat Manel Cap the first time. 3 million views. 2 million against Ulka Sasaki. Kizemon Sega, 3.1 million views. You know? Just, they don't even have to be big names themselves, is what I'm saying here. It's not like they even have to be a Kyoji Horiguchi or someone who's recognizable to even a casual MMA fan as a name. But still he brings these numbers. 6.3 million views just by posting the fight online. 3 million, 3.3, 8.9. Do you understand what realm that is in? I'm going to show you something right now on the UFC's page. Type in free fight in the search box. The UFC have 18.2 million subscribers on YouTube. Look at some of the numbers their free fights do. And there will be a free fight that gets a lot of views, 1.8 million. Dustin Poirier, Benoit Saint Denis, in the build-up of UFC 302 this is. 1.8 million. That's not competing with this guy. And it's Dustin Poirier, Benoit Saint Denis on fight week of UFC 302. UFC Classic, Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa, full fight. 890,000 views in a month. Look at the numbers this guy's bringing. And I want to mention as well, remember I said this, UFC subscriber count, 18.2 million views. And by the way, look, Taira on the banner on their page in the background, Japanese prospect coming up in the UFC. They're about to take over the whole Japanese MMA market right now. One of the biggest moves the UFC's made in recent UFC history. Look at Rizin's numbers though. They've got 1 million subscribers, 1.15 million subscribers on YouTube. He's engulfing them. You see the free fight, 1.8 million views for Poirier. Well, UFC's YouTube has 14 million subscribers, so no doubt it's going to get 1 million views if you post it on there. 1.15 million subscribers on Rizin's channel. He's beating their subscriber count every time he fights. 8.9, 2.2, 3.3, 3 million, 6.3, 2.5, 3... I don't need to go on about this over and over, so I'm going to make this a bit more of a short video, but pay attention. Kai Asakura coming over to the UFC. I wonder who they're going to give him in his debut. I'd love Peter Yan. That'd be a great matchup. Maybe they want to put him in there against someone a little bit lower down first. Maybe they just do him versus like a Kyler Phillips or something to like bring him into the UFC, and then if he wins that one, then we can start talking about top 5 opponents. But he's in his prime. He's one of the biggest names outside of the UFC. He's bigger than nearly every name inside the UFC. Name someone bringing these numbers on a consistent basis, day after day after day, all within the space of a month. He's getting like millions and millions. He's probably brought about 10 million views in the past month. That might be an over-exaggeration, but somewhere close to that. Insane numbers this guy's bringing. And just look at some of the crowds. This is one of the more insane ones, as you can see. One of his bigger fights that he had. This is another crowd that he's pulled as well. You've probably never heard of this guy. You should have, but you probably haven't. Look at the crowds he's bringing. And I know these are probably more empty up here. There's still people up there. And all the lower rows are stacked to the brim with people. No gaps in the seats. I don't see no gaps in those seats like the UFC pay-per-views. When you look out in the crowd and you can see half folded up chairs in the background and half people sitting there. We sold out, by the way. We broke a record gate tonight. No. Asakura breaks record gates. Okay? You don't need to lie and have people sat one space aside from each other. This one's a bit... But this was during the pandemic. This was during the pandemic. I know this absolutely disproves what I just said, but this was literally during the pandemic. One space apart. Everyone got their masks on. Around that time as well. I think this was 2020, 2021. And he's still bringing an arena. Insane. Looking forward to seeing what he does in the UFC. More noise needs to be made about this guy's signing because it's a market that were just watching him. The Japanese market, they knew about the UFC. I bet you they did. They know about the UFC. They're not dumb. They know what they're getting into, okay? But they're a different market. A different market, and he's bringing all of those eyes now. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. If he wins his debut and they post it on their UFC YouTube channel, again, one more time to hit it home. The numbers he's pulling on Rizin with 1.15 million subscribers. If he wins a debut against a big name UFC fighter and they just post it, the full fight, on their YouTube channel, the week after, or any point during the next few days after he wins his debut or something, or even loses it, it will get so many views. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. If you're wondering why Perez versus Taylor is the main event of a fight night this weekend, this is why. So hopefully, for the UFC's sake, Taylor wins, so it all pays off. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Pay attention to Kai Asakura. Huge name. Insane name. One more time. You're not understanding what I'm talking about here. This is a viral internet sensation who just so happens to be a great MMA fighter and prospect that now wants to be in the UFC. Insane. Like and subscribe. Like, this is I show speed numbers, Kai Sanat numbers, but he just so happens to be an MMA fighter that's now going to be in the UFC. Make a deal about this, because I'm going to. See you later. Goodbye.